So if you've been trying to figure out how to buy commercial real estate, let me walk you through the steps of what it takes from actually identifying a property all the way to the closing table. First, I think the biggest misconception that's on the internet on BiggerPockets and what they tell you to do online is they say, go find the deal and money will find you. The problem is that you are competing against a ton of people, and especially real estate professionals. So if you're gonna try and be brand new into commercial real estate, where in my opinion, commercial is way more sophisticated than residential, you're competing against a higher echelon of cerebral intelligence. And so you can't just expect to show up on LoopNet or Crexy and find a slam dunk deal and essentially be able to close that property really quickly and be really efficient with it. It doesn't happen that way. So what I suggest is, instead of you spending all your time on the internet at night feeling like you are being efficient, but really you're just being busy, you're not producing or creating anything. Instead, what I would really encourage you to do, and I hate the word encourage, but I would tell people, to speak people in our collective, don't spend your time online. Rather, when you're driving down, just a road and you see a shopping center, it's got a for lease sign in the front, don't call up John Smith who's leasing a spot and say, hey John, I want to buy commercial property. Instead, say something like this. Hey John, my name is Nolan. I just passed by your listing over at 123 Main Street for lease. I don't have any interest in actually occupying that space, but I am interested in potentially buying a piece of property. I'm looking for 10 to 25,000 feet, 16 to 18 foot ceiling heights, less than a mile off the highway. Do you by chance have anything kind of in your ballpark of what you're working on right now that kind of matches up with that criteria? And what you just did is you just spoke his language. You used his vocabulary. So instead of saying, I want to buy commercial real estate, you sound like a total novice, I'm never calling you back. But a broker gets paid when deals close. And so because you used his vocabulary, you didn't say, I want to buy commercial, I own square feet. You don't say things like that. You use foot. You say, I want to buy 10,000 feet. When you use words like that, you're speaking his language. You sound like you are more seasoned. So in his brain, what that just spouts off essentially is that he now has a higher rate of percentage of closing a deal with you because you used his vocabulary, therefore getting him paid, therefore he more likely than not might send you something. After you've done your homework, you've done your due diligence, you've made sure all your metrics and ratios and all those boxes check, you need to go and speak with a banker. I suggest actually doing this before you actually get a property on a contract so you can be way more efficient during due diligence. But once you speak with this banker, you never ask him for a mortgage. You never go and get a pre-approval letter like what they talk about on BiggerPockets. Rather, focus on submitting a proposal for finance. And what this is, it essentially switches around the conversation with the banker. Before you're actually out there begging for a mortgage, would you mind pre-approving me for a loan? Instead, when you submit a proposal for finance, what it actually does is it positions the bank as a way to say, no, you're offering them something. You're saying, hey, I've got a really cool building and a great project under contract right now. Do you have any interest in this? I'll even provide you collateral for a mortgage. So rather, instead of a bank sitting up on their high and mighty chest or their chair thinking that they're better than you, rather you've got a really cool project, because remember, the only way that the banks make money is by lending you money. And so if you're able to be a great partner to them, have a great tenant in place with a long-term lease that rents every month, they've got great debt service coverage ratio, you've got great rents, great cash flow, they're looking you as a much less risk as maybe somebody that has no tax returns or doesn't have a good project under contract. And the last piece that you need before you close is called a tenant estoppel agreement. And what that just means is that whatever is currently on the lease, the tenant agrees that there's no side handshakes going on with the landlord. There's not 6 months of no rent. There's no rent holidays. There's no utilities being paid. What it just means is that you as the landlord and them as the tenant, everything that is currently in the lease is up to par as to where the lease is today, and there's nothing going sideways. So it just means that your tenant can't come back in a couple months after you close and say, whoa, hey, I had this really great agreement with my landlord that I had 3 years off of rent. No, you signed this tenant estoppel agreement saying that that wasn't on the sideline, and then it's also legally binding. Buying commercial real estate is not that hard. It's just intimidating, because all they talk about on BiggerPockets is how to buy more doors and how to buy more units and single family houses. The thing is that commercial real estate is larger, it's more passive, the debt is easier to acquire, the leases are way longer, you have a much better relationship with your tenant because they're business owners, they're not freaking Red Lobster waiters that think you're the greedy landlord from Monopoly with a mustache. Your ability to scale and own millions of dollars of real estate is so much easier because you can do 1 or 2 deals and get to a couple $1,000,000 versus having to buy those ticky-tack, rinky-dink $40,000 houses that I started doing and you're probably currently doing. My biggest advice, join a community of like-minded people that all have that same idea and tenacity to go after opportunities and take action, because if you don't join something, you're more likely than not 30 years down the road going to be exactly where you are, and regret is a whole lot more painful than joining a group and taking some action today. So if you have interest in learning more about commercial real estate and creating this passive income and this financial freedom that they actually talk about and how you can actually achieve it, click the link in my bio to schedule a call directly with me, and we'll see if our CRE private mentorship and our collective could be for you. And remember, you're only one triple net lease away. See you on the other side.